Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I am very grateful for the kind introduction. This is an extension of the breakfast session 2. The first one occurred in Hall B and it was very well attended. It was sponsored by Nabi Qasim and it was done by Pakistan Endocrine Society, PES. Now I'm going to talk about further diabetes, because you know the persons will come with diabetes and you have to intervene early. You have to do the A, B, C, D, E and F. A is A1C. You do it best with an SGLT2 inhibitor along with other medicine. In certain indication it has become #1 product. B is blood pressure, C cholesterol, but at times people will come who have already had complications. So what do we have for them? This is a sponsored talk by AGP, who are the distributors of calcium dobisolate in Pakistan. Chronic venous disease and diabetes have many things in common, but they are two different diseases altogether. However, they can coexist. Chronic venous disease, an outcome of venous hypertension, and it leads to dilatation of vein, which can be from very fine lines in the lower limb to varicose veins, ultimately edema and ulceration. And the treatment is obviously a therapeutic lifestyle change along with compression stocking and veno-active drug. And we are going to talk about all these. And the veno-active drug in question is calcium dobisolate. For diabetes, you have already heard yesterday as well as today that a treatment is a change in lifestyle and behavior, followed by blood glucose control by metformin, other products, and SGLT2 inhibitors. Specifically, they have very few contraindications, and there is a lot of talk about GLP-1 receptor analogs, which is semaglutide, a dual agonist, which is tirzepatide, Mounjaro, and a triple agonist, which is retatrutide. So what is the prevalence? In Pakistan, the prevalence of diabetes is a staggering 17%, and we have the highest prevalence of diabetes, and despite the fact that we are the 5th most populous country in the world, the number of people living with diabetes in Pakistan rank 3rd after China and India. Just by the sheer number, we are 3rd, but by the number of persons per 100, we are the 1st. And chronic venous disease is another common problem. It usually affects the lower limb. There are 3 types of veins: superficial, deep, and communicating or perforating veins. There is a new classification for the venous disease, and it's known as a SEEP classification, and C is for clinical manifestation, E is for etiological, and A for anatomical involvement, and P is for pathological or pathophysiological. So USA has 25 million cases. C0 to C6. C0 means when there are no symptoms, no signs on the lower limb, and still a person can have venous hypertension, because it's not always that they will have clinical signs. C1 and 2. 2 is varicose vein. When a person has varicose vein, you call it C2. And the whole spectrum, C3, 4, 5, and 6, is called chronic venous insufficiency. And there are skin changes in C3, and in 4 and 5, you have edema and changes in the pigmentation, and 5 and 6, when there are ulcers in the lower limb. So what are the commonalities between diabetes and chronic venous disease? They coexist. 20% of people who have diabetes will have chronic venous disease. And those who have diabetes, one half will have at the time of diagnosis microvascular problems. And they share the risk factors, and I'll allude to them later. And they have the same pathogenesis in common. What is the concept of holopathogenesis? You must be aware, holopathogenesis means one factor which is common to all diseases, and that is nothing else but inflammation. And that is common to chronic venous disease, it is common to diabetes, it is common to all NCDs, including obesity, cancer, cardiovascular disease. So this is what you look at. You look at the clinical picture, C0 when there are no signs, C6 when there is active ulcer. You look at the etiology, whether it is primary or secondary. Secondary is further classified into intravenous and extravenous, and EC are congenital causes. The best part is it is EN, no cause. And there are times when we see so many diseases, but we do not find the cause. Similarly, anatomical, whether it is the superficial venous system or the deep or the perforating system that is involved. And there are only two pathophysiological mechanisms. One is obstruction, and the other is reflux. They can occur separately or in combination. And remember, PN is when there is no discernible pathophysiological cause for the venous disease. All dilated vein in the lower limb is chronic venous disease. So a good physician must be able to differentiate and take history. I'm very glad that the organizers have not turned the clock on, which is a reverse clock and goes from 20 minutes to 0. Thank you so much. I don't know whether this is to please me or displease the audience, but this has happened. Anyway, so you have to look for the cause, you have to take the history, find whether these dilated veins are part of a systemic illness, which could be CCF, right heart failure, hypothyroidism, hypoalbuminemia, chronic venous insufficiency. C3 to C6 are chronic venous insufficiency. When other than dilated vein, there are skin changes. And a dilated vein can occur with hemorrhage, and dilated vein can lead to a fatal hemorrhage. There have been case reports where chronic venous disease, varicose veins have led to a fatal hemorrhage, like in an accident or by trauma. That is important. And it has been said that these recurrent venous ulcers can ultimately go on to malignant degeneration. And they also cause a lot of psychological illness. So at the beginning, always therapeutic lifestyle change, regular physical activity to improve the secondary heart, which is the calf muscle, compression and stockings or elastic bandages, and venoactive drug, and I'm going to speak about one very important drug. And these, as I said, there are cases where chronic venous disease occurs in diabetes, and 20%. And in people who have diabetes, I make it a point to try and call people with diabetes rather than diabetics. American Society of Diabetes and other societies recommend that you should call them people and stop calling them diabetics. So please, thank you so much. I think I have this support from the audience of people sitting with from Meethi Zindagi. Thank you so much. Diabetic retinopathy. 50% people who have diabetes will have one or the other complication of microvascular disease, who also have chronic venous disease, diabetic nephropathy, neuropathy. And Professor Su and other people, they rightly said that you have to start treatment early. A1C has to be corrected, blood pressure, cholesterol, weight, exercise, everything has to be recommended. But what if the person has already had complications, what do we have to offer? Aging and diabetes and chronic venous disease, they have these risk factors common to them. Similarly, these are the factors. And smoking, don't call smoking. Because when you ask people whether they smoke, they will say no. And when you ask them, do you use tobacco? And they will very proudly say, yes, I have this vape thing. So please ask about tobacco use. Don't ask about smoking. Younger people are switching from smoking to vaping. And when you ask them about smoking, they do not most of the time tell you. So make a habit as a physician to ask about tobacco use. And there are people who chew tobacco. And it's not only in KPK. I have seen वो आमर गफूर साहब बैठे, वो हर वक्त नस्वार का जिक्र करते हैं. And he always insights, he always attracts us to come to KPK, and then that he promises that he will provide the best of the Naswar if we visit. So what these factors lead to? They lead to oxidative stress, and it leads to inflammation. Inflammation leads to endothelial damage, changes in the blood products, and changes in the lymphatic circulation. Holopathogenesis, inflammation, common to all, is also common here. Diagnostic approach, start with history and ask about medication history. People are taking calcium channel antagonists and they can cause vasodilatation. Ask about family history and past history. Do the clinical examination and look for muscle and nerve disorder. The investigation of choice is colored duplex ultrasound. But you can do a CT or a MR venography as well. But colored duplex ultrasound. Therapeutic thing is lifestyle change. I am a strong advocate of positive psychological well-being, and then compression bandages or elastic bandages and veno-active drug. And आजकल आप बात नहीं कर सकते about any medication unless you share with this audience of this magnitude and so well qualified about the evidence. So I'm going to share the evidence. Surgery is required for those who have recurrent ulceration. Calcium dobisolate has actions on all the venous systems in the body. Some are off-label, some are in-label. In-label are microangiopathies of diabetes that includes retinopathy, peripheral neuropathy, and nephropathy. So then there are off-label, and then it is also used for hemorrhoid and for chronic venous diseases like swelling in the lungs. So all microvascular complications, chronic venous disease of the lower limb, and hemorrhoids, you can use calcium dobisolate with good results. What and how it works, if it is a fibroblast growth factor or vascular endothelial growth factor antagonist. There was this wonderful session in Hall B, the first session. The hall was full, and A.H. Amar made an excellent presentation, and he spoke about the pleiotropic effects. He spoke about the pleiotropic effects of SGLT2 inhibitors. What is pleiotropy? Pleiotropy is when you have some effect which is not intended or was not intended in the first place. Like SGLT2, the effect intended was reduction in HbA1c. And what did they get in pleiotropy? As an adjunct, improvement in kidney function, an improvement in heart function, a protection of heart disease, and a protection of kidney disease. So that is pleiotropy. And it has antagonist function with pleiotropy. And let's share with you what does it mean. It means that it protects the capillaries and vessel walls, and this is angioprotective effect through the endothelial improvement in endothelial function and leakage. And it also has effect on the blood components. It is anti-thrombotic and anti-hemostatic. And it has a positive influence on the lymphatic circulation. And all these lead to improvement in three things: capillary wall function, reduced viscosity by action on the blood components, and improved lymphatic function. So it can be used in all patients with diabetes who have microvascular complications, and I will show you some guidelines. There's a consensus statement, Siena Guidelines 2005, International Angiology Guideline, IUA is International Union of Angiology, numerous guidelines, then European Society of Vascular Surgery, Management of Chronic Venous Disease Guidelines, and then there is Austrian HTA, which is Health Technology Assessment, and a Cochrane review. And I'll share with you the result. It says, the Austrian Health Technology Assessment report, that calcium dobisalate has a moderate effect on vascular function and on venous stasis. International Union of Angiology says that this venoactive drug can reduce limb heaviness, lower limb edema, and leg volume. And not only that, it improves the peripheral neuropathy of diabetes, it improves the retinopathy, and it improves the nephropathy. And look at this calcium dobisalate. It has a function all across the spectrum, and the other products are not having that widespread improvement. Delphi method, when you leave the people in a closed room to discuss and arrive at a consensus. Let's look at the consensus from Italy. And they said that venoactive drugs, they required 3 rounds to reach this, that adopt correct therapeutic lifestyle, 100% agreement, use SEEP classification, 0 to 3 with symptoms, use venoactive drugs with symptoms. 4, 5, and 6, when you have edema and you have subcutaneous tissue or tissue pigmentation or ulceration, use venoactive drug. And the venoactive drug in question is calcium dobisalate. And compression, 100%. Therapy should be given for 2 months or until remission of symptoms. And they should be considered complementary if there are clinical manifestations throughout. So another very important change has occurred in science, in hepatology, and that also occurred because of the Delphi method done in 2022 and 3, and in June 23 they announced that NAFLD, 100% agreement, will be called MASLD, metabolic dysfunction associated static liver disease. So let's coming back to calcium dobisalate and look at the trials. They did look at all the trials. Cochrane review looks at all the trials. And Cochrane was an OBGY expert from UK, and it is in his name that you look at these trials and the meta-analysis. So in 2020, they found that there were only 4 studies which were of high quality, and 3 were with calcium dobisalate, and they all showed improvement. The side effects were minor side effects, nausea or diarrhea, but in very few people. What does the European Society of Vascular Surgery, they say that you should recommend exercise and you should recommend venoactive therapy. For exercise, it is a class 2A, and for venoactive drugs, it is also class 2A. And look at the class 1 recommendations. They are elastic compression and this elastic compression of varying degrees. So that is class 1. Class 2 is exercise and lifestyle modification, and 2A also. 2A दोनों के लिए is pharmacotherapy. So this is again comparing calcium dorbicillate with other compounds. So in conclusion, there is a journal agreement, and most of these guidelines are from Europe, International Union of Angiology, and this was for venous disease. Now I'll share some guidelines for diabetes. These are CDS, which is Chinese Diabetic Society data, and they have used it very extensively, or diabetic retinopathy, nephropathy, and peripheral neuropathy of diabetes are all positively influenced by this product. And they have no serious or significant side effect. So you can use it with benefit in people with diabetes. Venous disease का डाटा तो यूरोपियन सोसाइटी से भी है, लेकिन डायबिटीज माइक्रोवैस्कुलर डिजीजेस का मोस्ट ऑफ द डाटा कम फ्रॉम चाइना. इट इज hardcore science. There is nothing wrong with it. But in Europe and USA, you cannot prescribe medicine just like that, and you have to have a strong reason. अभी मैं उमर फारूक से पूछ रहा था, who made a great presentation, कि आपके डायबिटीज के पेशेंट्स जो टाइप 2 के हैं, कितने जो हैं SGLT2 इनहिबिटर पे लेते हैं. मैं तो यहाँ पे जब लेक्चर देता हूँ, मैं तो कहता हूँ, अगर आपका पेशेंट विद टाइप 2 डायबिटीज इज नॉट taking SGLT2 inhibitor, the doctor is negligent in prescribing the best medication. उसने कहा हमारे तो बहुत few हैं, क्योंकि the cost constraint because of the commercial aspect, so you have to really justify. लेकिन ये इस वजह से कि ये USA और यूरोप में यूज नहीं हो रही, it does not belittle this product. They have their own limitation. So we have strong data from Chinese Diabetes Society. And the study group on microvascular complications says that you should recommend it for diabetic nephropathy, and there is a lot of data to suggest that it reverses nephropathy. So, and for calcium dorbicillate for Chinese Diabetes Society's 2017 guideline, start with A, B, C. That's what we always do. And then if there is a nephropathy or a retinopathy, use this drug, calcium dorbicillate. So again, they are saying the same thing year after year, and they are recommended it for both peripheral retinopathy and proliferative diabetic retinopathy and retinopathy where the sight or the vision is going to be impaired. So it's recommended, and it's recommended both for microvascular complication. Most of the data, however, is from Chinese Diabetes Society. For chronic venous diseases, the data is very strong, and from International Union of Angiology and European Society of Vascular Surgery, everybody is having this consensus कि lifestyle और behavior change ज़रूर करना है, और local treatment with elastic compression in chronic venous disease करना है, और veno active drug का role है. Thank you very much.